Hey everyone, and welcome back to Courage Conversations. I'm your host, Ashley Easter. I'm the founder and executive director of Courage 365, and we have a great show planned for you tonight. Now, we're in our third season of the Courage Conversation show, and if you recall, last season we had a special guest who's very frequent on the show, Alexis Douglas. She taught us so many things about the intersection of race and abuse survivors and trauma and allyship. And she's actually going to be coming on again tonight. I know we've had a lot of positive feedback about her previous shows, so this is going to be a real treat that she's back on again for season 3. In case you haven't listened to our past shows, and I would definitely recommend that you do. You can catch those archived videos on our website. Just go to courage365.org and click the video tab, and you can scroll through, find some of her past episodes with us. But I'm just going to give you a quick recap, and then we're going to invite Alexis on the show. So, again, continuing from last year, Alexis is here helping Courage 365 take steps towards learning and growing about becoming more supportive of Black, Brown, Indigenous, and people of color within the survivor community. And she has really just taught us so many things. And I've gotten some training from Alexis. Our board has gotten some training. Her episodes have allowed our community to have some training. And this is just a way that we can start that conversation and learn how to be better supportive. Alexis is the founder of the R&R Village, which she's going to talk about a little bit, catch us up on what that is, because this is something that was in the works last time, but it is fully realized now. And yeah, we're really excited to have her on the show again. And I'm going to bring Alexis right here after these messages.
Talk about it. I was told not to talk about it.
So I'm here to talk about it.
Because I can't stay quiet.
I was able to break my silence.
Because of those who refuse to stay quiet.
I am a businesswoman.
Activist.
Survivor.
Survivor. Survivor.
Anxiousness can strike at any time, while driving a car, in the middle of the night, when giving a work presentation, or in a crowded place. Introducing Calmigo, a smart calming device that learns your personal breathing patterns and adapts to you for immediate relief in just 3 minutes. It quiets your senses through breathing regulation, multisensory stimulation, and calming scents. Don't stress another moment. Click the Learn More button and start using Calmigo today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Courage Conversation Show. And Alexis, thank you for being here again. It is such an honor and pleasure to have you on the show after all of these months.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And since we last talked, you have undergone sort of a transformation. You're doing some new things. You have the R&R Village up and running. It's a nonprofit now. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to and about this new organization you started.
Well, so I've been up to a few different things. I took some time to pause from taking on new coaching clients.
Yeah.
And I maintained my most fortified client relationships, and then I just had to let some go. And I've been doing actual political work. So I ran teams of canvassers for different ballot initiatives across the country. And now I am a democracy organizer for an organization called Moses here in Detroit. And I'm getting into community organizing because I found that doing the work one-to-one wasn't giving me as big of scale results as I think that we can achieve.
Right.
And which leads to R&R Village, which is, I know I've told you all about my spiritual awakening and I had this vision and purpose and all that. And R&R Village is like the fruit of that, but we are now officially a 501c3 organization as of March. And we offer programming to help Black and American descendants of slavery heal from the impact of systemic racism, which is a daunting process, but our mission is to empower Black and American descendants of slavery, which I'll start saying ADOS. It's just when I say ADOS, a lot of times people don't know for me. But there's a lot of work to empower Black and ADOS people to pass a dignified life to the generation behind them. And as you all know about trauma, and we've talked before about the intergenerational impact of that, being able to pass a life that is full of dignity and purpose to the generation behind you is a reestablishment of culture. And so what the grand vision for R&R Village is a 3 to 7 year program where we reestablish a healthier culture.
Wow. That is so incredible. And I know I've had personal conversations with you. I've had conversations with you on the show, and I can just see kind of like all of your vision kind of coming together in this and all of your expertise. I mean, this is incredible. And I really think that you're going to make a difference on an individual level, but also on a collective level. And I love kind of the strategy of both of those pieces being there because both are important. And I'm just, I'm thrilled and just really super impressed with all that you're doing. And I did have a question about the group of people you serve. Can you say the name again? You gave me an acronym.
So I said Black and American Descendants of Slavery, which is ADOS.
Got it. Yes. So Black and American Descendants of Slavery. So Black is first, and that is the group of people that comes to my mind when I think of slavery in the United States. But it kind of has that second part to the term. So is it more expansive than Black Americans? And like, what is that part? I just want to learn.
We have Black immigrants. We have people who are not necessarily descendants of enslavement who are also Black.
Got it.
And even if you are a first generation brown skin, Black skin, depending on how dark your skin is, immigrant, you still experience in America the Black experience as the American descendant of enslavement experience. You still experience that and being an immigrant. So like there's the xenophobia and the racism, and that's the intersectionality for that.
Got it.
But then that also causes and sometimes there's a rift between the two.
Right.
Because the same Black immigrants have not had the intergenerational psychological trauma in this land. And so there's reconciliation and reparation that needs to happen there as well.
Got it. Okay, that's really helpful. I figured there was something deeper and more inclusive there with the way that you titled that. And so thanks for explaining that term to us. That's super helpful. Well, the topic that we're going to discuss today is something that you brought up as a suggestion. And when you mentioned it, I was like, yes, this is so good. But basically, what you wanted to talk about was basically keeping on and staying active through disappointment. And I love that topic for so many reasons. And I think it can apply to people who are survivors, people who are Black, brown, Indigenous people of color, who life can just sometimes have a lot of additional disappointments because of all the racism and oppression available. I think sometimes people doing activism work who are trying to support others can feel disappointment. And so when you brought this topic up, I was like, yes, absolutely. Because I think sometimes when we're disappointed, we can take this like, oh, maybe this is a failure. Maybe I should just stop and not become active. But I don't think that that's really the solution. So when you brought up this topic, what did you have in mind? And then also, have you faced some disappointment that maybe brought this to the forefront of being an important conversation?
Yes, so what I had in mind, let me answer them in the order. What I had in mind was really making a personal appeal for people to stay active even though they may be disappointed.
Mm.
To um to so whenever we have big wins, there is a backlash. There's
Yeah.
um so right now Trump lost, and then there's been all this work to strip rights, and so that happens. And if you look at our history, that happens every time there's an advancement. It's like soon as there's a
Mm.
win, the win gets stripped or decomposed, like not not killed, decomposed, but like separated
Like
into
picked
different
apart.
parts and
Yeah.
deconstructed. And that is something that has been vexing me a bit lately, because is it we I am a person who is of the belief that of the knowing that we manifest our realities. So a lot of activists are in a victim consciousness, and that's no shade. Like that's just where they are, but they're fighting to be a survivor instead of fighting as a survivor,
Mm.
which means not fighting, but being strategic and working towards your purpose and your goals. Um, and so, but the disappointment along the way is really, really traumatizing. Like, is so the backlash feels like a bully, like the bully getting their way and getting like, no, we fought but that win was so hard fought. I just want to rest. But what does rest look like in a way that allows us to still maintain our wins? And then what does it look like to stay active when
Mm.
you are um I don't have a better way to say this, but maybe when you got in this, and I'm speaking as a white person, I got into this racism awareness game not knowing exactly what it is, and I don't know if I had a chops for that, right? Like there are real life implications
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
burying your head back in the sand.
Yeah.
So what I had in mind was an appeal not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That that makes sense, and I'm really glad that we're talking about that because you're right. Um, there have been advancements in different, um, really just a lot of different parts of society, where we've worked to bring equality, safety, justice, and then there, like you said, is that backlash to be expected. And I love how you talked about how this is something that we can track back through history as being a common thread. But I think a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that that's just kind of the cycle of things. And so they're caught off guard by the dismantling of different things and the additional attacks. You kind of feel like, oh, we've won. Okay, it's better. And then they completely are either unaware or they've forgotten that the cycle of things is usually, well, they try to come back harder and the fight's not really over. The work's not really done. Um,
You do
and
know
even
that
just
that's
that
also
awareness.
a mechanism. That's a
Mm.
mechanism in the process,
Ooh.
because that's the American meritocracy dream working in your advocacy, working in your fight against the struggle.
Yeah.
Because if I do good, I'm supposed to win. And when I get the win, I'm victorious, and now I get all the spoils.
Right.
That's the indoctrination that we have. But if we lose sight of being present during that
Mhm.
process, then we're going to think that it's done now. I've done what I can do. Now I get to go live life and have fun. And you do
Yeah.
get to have fun. I'm not, I am
Sure.
not, I'm not a proponent of saying all work and no play, even in,
Right.
no. Um, but I am saying that just like everything, you have to give
Mhm.
your focus and attention to it in order for the values that you want to expand. And if you
Right.
don't, someone who's willing to do what it takes to get their values across
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Something that's coming to my mind, thinking about things from like a psychology standpoint as well. Um, when you think about whether it's social media notifications or whether it's a game that you're playing or there's a lot of different things when we win, we get like a dopamine hit and we're like, whew, and that kind of makes you feel really good. And on the other end of things, when things aren't going well, you sort of your brain doesn't have that dopamine hit and that extra like boost of like energy to keep going, and it almost has the opposite effect of like, oh, this is not going well, I'm going to kind of back away from this. And so it's almost, it seems like probably some chemicals in our brain and some psychology in addition to just like a misunderstanding of the system. And I think that from what I'm hearing you say, it's really important that we understand like that's going to happen. That's to be expected. And we should and can keep going. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Am I right?
Yes, because most people get into the work for their anger.
Right.
My present company included.
Yes.
And but if anger is exhausting, but anger focuses the mind. Anger says, that's my target.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, like unchecked anger. Now, when you're present to your anger, you say, what is my goal? And you use that energy towards your goal. But that unchecked anger is, that's my target. It focuses the mind. But it's not sustaining. It's giving you adrenaline. It's giving you other chemicals that I don't know that you need in order to be able to have your mind focus in that way.
Yeah.
But what if we were to set up some of our escapism as dopamine hits? Like you learn faster through play than you do through repetition.
Yeah.
So how do we structure our friend group like activities? We do things like gender reveals. That's brand new. Now we have all these different parties. There's all kind of sip and seas and different, just all these just gatherings for the purpose of gathering. What if instead of like getting together to say the sky is falling, fire and brimstone, scare, we're going to lose our voting rights, which is all true. I'm not saying, I'm not acting like it's not true, but we got together to say, hey, do you know who does what in your town? How about we you know what I'm saying, make trivia drinking games of like what do the county commissioners do? What does your city council do? What are the values of your school board? Who's running for that? Like make it fun to be involved.
Yeah.
Because then when it's time to be angry, you're recharged enough and you can let that anger go where it's supposed to go. And you have what it takes to be sustaining. But to just go, burn out, and then turn away and be like, well, I gave it a try.
Yeah.
We don't want that kind of help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. The word that's coming to my mind is like gamifying activism in like a positive way where it's like, you know, there's little rewards along the way to kind of keep you going. And I think we got to figure out some sort of a strategy that like helps, like you said, it's not that there aren't dark things, but you're going to get burned out if that's the only way you're viewing the problem. Let's look at solutions and how can we kind of gamify that to keep people engaged and interested and really supporting for the right reasons.
And it's the same principle if you can't give from an empty cup.
Right.
Like every healer, every coach, every guru says take care of, like you have to do that. Yeah. But how do you do that in a way where it still serves purpose and is not just purposeless escapism?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So a question that came up for me as I'm listening to all this and as I was kind of thinking about this ahead of time is with disappointment, do you think it's ever possible for disappointment to be a gift in that maybe it's a catalyst for learning, for redirection, or do you think it's always something negative? Like disappointment never feels good, but can it be leveraged and used to keep going if it's done the right way?
That's a really good question. So of course I'm going to my like intellectual, energetic understanding of it. And disappointment and gratification for me cause my body to have the like polar sensations.
Yes.
So disappointment means that I have attempted to curate the outcome too much. Um, but gratification means like the outcome was exactly like I planned, and I can feel my energy coursing through that. I think that disappointment is a good thing if you are aware that your expectations or your curation, like what was out of context, like if you use it as an activity to become present to your like to what caused you to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Did you have evidence to support your expectations or just hope?
Right.
And that includes like manifesting. Have you been, and what I mean, like, because I know manifesting could feel really miraculous. And so you get into like, well, I don't need evidence. I have to have faith that things not unseen. Yes, but when we're pulling things from the ethers into reality, there's a process of be, do, have that goes along with it. Have you worked your process? Did you stay present? Because if you're disappointed, chances are you're not present. Because you had a future expectation.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good thought. And you always give me so many things to think about. And I think if people like are watching the video, they'll see my eyes kind of turn up because I'm always like thinking. When I think, I like look up or off to the side. I see that a lot on your episodes. That I think that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like what you're saying is about perhaps the disappointment came from expectations that weren't either matched with you being or doing things to create that expectation, or maybe it's out of alignment with what's for the greater good. Can you maybe expound a little bit? I think I'm still getting a little bit lost there.
So when I say create the expectation, so like now I've learned in organizing, when you want to create a campaign, you have a theory to win, right? If I organize my people to do this, then this result will happen, and then this bigger result will happen, right? So, but that's an expectation that like you are setting but you have to do a power analysis before you set a theory to win, right? Like, do I have enough power that these people will, that my people can do this action, can do this. Versus sometimes when we're manifesting, the fact that we know we can manifest, like once when it's like really new to us and it's exciting, then it's like, oh, everything can happen just if I think it up without, just because I sat and I received it.
Right.
Which is true, but there is a process of sitting and receiving. Which creating expectations is not it. You elevate your beingness or vibration to that.
Got it. Yeah. You got to be prepared to meet your expectations.
And so if you are just sitting back, like when you're making change on a collective level, you're just sitting back waiting to receive the collective change. The collective says it don't work that way, so it don't work that way. And that's the dealing with the world as it is. And that's the context that's necessary not to be stuck in disappointment. Not to be like, to use it to be like, oh, so when I say use it to see what was off, what was my theory to win? What was this? But not all the work of not personalizing it and internalizing it as a failure and all of that is still necessary because your psyche has to be taken care of. But that disappointment is a projection. Like that's the process. Like, now I'm tangling myself up because we deal with the world as it is
Yeah.
while we create the world we choose for it to be.
Right. Right.
And what I'm trying to say is that somewhere between the world as it is and the world as we choose it to be, the disappointment lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we spend too much time focused on this, what's wrong, and not be creating what's right. Like, so in my city, it looks like we're going to have a very low turnout for the primary. And this is a pretty critical primary election.
Right.
But we're at a space where that seems to be certain. So there's not that much that can be done. So then it's time for what to do about the general. Sitting and sulking in the disappointment of the turnout and going on and ruminating and commiserating and being like, but were we working like we were supposed to be working to get people turned out?
Right. Right. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to an extent. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. That's really good. So for people who are maybe feeling in a place of disappointment, what would you say are some of your top tips for still being active socially in different social advocacy movements, whether that is helping abuse survivors, whether that is advocating for equality and equity for people of color or for themselves if someone's watching and they are a Black, brown, Indigenous person of color? Like what would you say when somebody's in a moment of disappointment? What are some of your best tips for like continuing to stay active and not giving up?
Know your self-interest is really that would be my first tip, whether it's for continuing to stay active or being active. When you are fueled by purpose and passion, if you don't know your self-interest, someone may give you one because they know theirs. So I would say that would be the first thing, just to be in the work. But when you are disappointed, then what is your self-interest is a thing to come back to, is a place to become grounded and rooted in. And what I mean by that is, like, I've been disappointed in this road I'm walking several times over. Like, oh my goodness, I want to quit. It is horrible. I cry my eyes out. Oh, woe is me. And that's not to minimize it. Like, when I say woe is me, like the full gambit, situational depression turned into prolonged depression, like all of the things I have been susceptible to myself. And whenever I'm back up, whenever I have my positive affect back, I always come back.
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing. Like, I don't want to do something else, even though I want to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So knowing your self-interest gives you a thing to be anchored in, because once you're anchored in it, it may be about, I need to change the way I'm doing the work. Because this way was too draining for me, or this way caused that. And there may be times where all I can do is donate to the work.
Yeah.
But what I can do is let the work leave my awareness completely.
Yeah. Yeah. That resonates with me so much, because it sounds like, it really has to be centered on your why, not somebody else's why. That's what's going to get you motivated in the first place. And then when you lose maybe some motivation, you have to go back to your why. And I love that you give people this idea of permission that, you know what, your why may stay the same, but maybe how you achieve, move forward towards those goals might be different. I know, like in my advocacy work for abuse survivors, that's had a variety of different iterations. Some of that has been writing, some of that has been speaking, some of that has been events. I've, now kind of brought it into a place where I have a nonprofit around it and we're doing these shows, and my why, trying to protect other people, create awareness and education, connect people to resources, those things have stayed the same. But how I've done that has had to shift, and it's had to shift for a variety of reasons. Some of it was because, like you said, sometimes you get burned out and the old way of doing things just isn't, sustainable for you. Sometimes also the world changes and what the world needs, or how you can accomplish your goal, those, that criteria is different. And so you have to kind of pivot for that. So I love how you kind of give people permission that it doesn't mean you have to stay the same way it is if it's like killing you on the inside. Like, you can still be a part of the work. Maybe you just need to shift how that's done, either temporarily or long term.
Yeah. Or both of them.
Yeah.
Right? So R&R Village's inaugural project is a week of transformation.
Yeah.
The plan for the R&R Village's campus is 3 to 7 years of transformation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, like, you can have the short term and the long term goals at the same time. And then too, I'm gonna say that play, have some fun. That's a thing to do when you're disappointed. Have some fun, let off some steam.
Yeah.
Take your focus off of the thing that has you disappointed. But remember, you have to have something on autopilot, because what you don't want to do is have in the future be like, oh, I feel the guilt of like I just gave up. So
Right.
you have to like that the still doing something is insulation against that.
Right.
And also you want the work to continue even though you may need a break.
Yeah.
The work is bigger than yourself. There's that part. But have fun. Find genuine connection. Relish in the moments of belonging, because shared values and shared purpose create a sense of belonging that feels familial.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this: get funky with it, let loose with it, get thotty. Have some rebellion to your work, right? Like something that makes you feel sassy, something that lets you know you're alive.
Yeah.
Like body paint and public policy.
Yeah.
Those two things don't necessarily go together, because public policy is supposed to be conservative, and body paint is for those liberal weirdos. But put them together because these affect your body.
Right. Right.
And then this last thing is like, don't be so hard on yourself. Remember, compassion and stuff is still necessary, and disappointment is an emotion on an emotional scale that means you have to navigate your way up to its polarity. You have to navigate your way to gratification.
Right.
You can't get there from the depths of your despair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So give yourself some time to be disappointed and not to escape the unpleasant feeling, because the same reason you're in the work is because you've survived so much, which means that you can, and this pain is nothing like the pain that actually got you into the work.
Wow.
It just feels like it has more weight and pressure.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Alexis. This has been just really, really helpful. And I guess I just want to see if there's anything else on this topic you wanted to share. Those were some of the questions that came to my mind. But if you had anything that you wanted to say, maybe directly to people that are disappointed, or just a last piece of advice or insight.
A thing I learned in organizer training was no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. A lot of times, us love and light people who want to be loving, trauma survived people want everything to be cushy and nurturing and safe. And when someone shows you traits that says that they're not safe, they're untrustworthy, they're this kind of person, that also may be the person you have to work to build power with, or that
Mm,
may be a person that moves a needle towards your vision. In the same way, your ego has to be out of like
mm,
a lot of things when you want to make change in your like transformation in your own life. As hard as it is, and we can do hard things, your ego also has to get out of the way for your shared future. The vision of the future that you are working toward, that is bigger than you.
yeah.
So someone's bad attitude, someone's annoyance, the fact that they hurt your feelings doesn't mean you get to stop doing the work. You have to find another way if you can't take that
Mm,
way. But it's not the work that's a personal work, right? Like, why is
yeah.
this person
Yeah.
triggering you so much? That's your own evolution, but don't let that take you away from the work of making society better.
Mm, thank you for that. That's really wise. That's really wise. Well, I know people are going to want to follow you in your work, and I know that there's a website in the works for R&R Village. Um, tell people how they can keep in touch with what's going on for you.
They can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Ask Alexis or Alexis Douglas. Alexis Douglas. I think I stopped Ask Alexis.
Okay.
Because I'm in community organizing now.
Yeah.
I'm just less present on the internet, on social media. But it does. I mean, I'm lurking all the time. Like that's a
Yeah.
part of my
Yeah.
escapism. But I don't have as much content coming. I would say give me a year and then expect a big boom.
Okay.
Um, but that's where I am right now.
That's great. And I'm sure on there you'll let people know when your website for R&R Village is up and all that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, it
Excellent.
should be up by the end of August.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Alexis. It's been great having you on the show as always. I know we've got one more episode with you coming up in a few weeks. So everybody make sure you stay tuned for that. And yeah, again, always I always learn something new. So thank you so, so much. Hey everyone, make sure you follow Alexis's social media. We'll make sure to link to that. And be sure to follow our social media. Courage365.org can be found on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, we're here every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can watch us streaming live, or you can catch the replay of our episodes on our YouTube channel or at our website. Other things that are available at our website at courage365.org is our free ebook, 5 Keys to Living a Life of Courage. This is an ebook about how you can take your next most courageous steps in your survivor healing journey. We've got other things available for you as well. We recently just started something called Courage Clubs. These are online peer support groups for adult survivors. We have a curriculum that we go through. So it's one of the types of support groups where you can share personal things if you want, if that feels healing and safe for you. But you don't have to share personal things. You can still show up and learn, engage with other people, because we'll actually be going um, and talking through a particular topic on healing. So it's been a beautiful community so far. It's completely free to join, but you do have to register. You do have to register, okay? It's always the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. But to get on the email list so you can have the private link to go into the Zoom room, you have to register. Go to courage365.org/clubs or go to the website and click the clubs tab. And then this is something that we have been finding a lot of survivors really enjoying. We have a daily morning text message list. These are empowering text messages created by survivors from our community for survivors. Now, when you sign up for this text list, you are not going to be getting text messages from other survivors, simply from courage365.org. And yes, I may not have written all the text messages because we do get them from our survivor community, but I am the one who responds. So if you reply to a message, it's a great way to stay in touch. To do that, it's super simple. It's completely free. Just pull out your phone with me. Go to a new text message format, and in the place where it says to, where you type the phone number, I want you to type this number. Okay, get ready, get your phone out, pull up a fresh message. Okay, that number is 917-809-7311. I'll give it to you again. That's 917-809-7311. And then in the message area, just go ahead and type the word courage, just courage, that's all. Hit submit, and when you do that, you'll be automatically added to our text message list. You'll get text messages Monday through Friday morning. We don't spam you. This is just empowering content, and it's a great way to stay connected and have kind of that shot of confidence, boost in the arm every morning when you wake up. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this show. Make sure you share it with your friends and family on social media so they can get this important content as well. Well, I will see you next week, and until then, live with courage.